Everyone assumes that living near the beach in the United States automatically means seven-figure homes, crushing property taxes, and insurance bills that feel like a second mortgage. And for many coastal areas, that's true. Malibu, Miami Beach, Santa Monica, the Outer Banks hotspots, these places have priced out almost everyone except the ultra-wealthy. But hidden behind that headline reality is a quieter truth most people never hear about. There are still beach towns in the US where home prices are so low they feel suspicious. Places where the median home price sits under $350,000, and in some cases under $250,000. These aren't fantasy listings or abandoned ghost towns. People live there, they work there, they walk to the water, and yet every single one of these places comes with a catch that keeps prices low. Before diving into the countdown, it helps to understand just how unusual these towns really are. Nationwide, the median home price hovers well above $400,000. In most desirable coastal counties, that number jumps dramatically, often doubling or tripling. Ocean access usually equals scarcity, and scarcity equals price pressure. So when you see beach towns selling homes for half the national coastal average, something is clearly offsetting the value. Sometimes it's weather, sometimes it's jobs, sometimes it's isolation, insurance costs, or the reality that a town that's lively in summer feels deserted the rest of the year. These places aren't scams, but they're priced the way they are for very real reasons. Starting at the lower end of the list are beach towns that technically qualify as coastal, but sit far outside the glamorous image most people imagine. Fort Pierce, Florida is one of them. Located on the Treasure Coast, Fort Pierce has direct Atlantic access, long stretches of uncrowded beach, and a median home price that has historically stayed far below South Florida norms. The upside is obvious: ocean views without Miami prices. The downside becomes clear just as quickly. Job opportunities are limited, wages lag behind state averages, and certain neighborhoods struggle with higher crime rates. Hurricanes are also a constant concern, and insurance costs can erase much of the apparent affordability if buyers aren't careful. Deerfield Beach, Florida surprises people for a different reason. It sits in Broward County, not far from some of the most expensive coastal real estate in the state. Yet pockets of Deerfield Beach still offer relatively affordable homes near the ocean. The catch here is density and age. Many of the lower-priced properties are older condos with high HOA fees, or homes in areas that feel crowded and heavily developed. You're paying less for square footage and privacy, and insurance premiums rise quickly due to flood zone classifications. Jacksonville, Florida is another coastal city that defies expectations. It has miles of beaches, a sprawling footprint, and a housing market that remains surprisingly accessible compared to other Florida metros. The reason prices stay lower is scale. Jacksonville is enormous, spread out, and uneven. Some beachside areas are beautiful and safe, while others feel neglected. Commutes can be long, public transit is limited, and summers are brutally hot. For many buyers, the beach access is real, but the lifestyle trade-offs are significant. Moving north, Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, often shows up on lists of affordable coastal living. The ocean is right there, the tourism infrastructure is massive, and home prices remain relatively low. But Myrtle Beach is seasonal to an extreme degree. In peak summer, it's crowded and chaotic. In winter, it can feel empty and economically stagnant. Many jobs revolve around tourism, wages are modest, and storm risk remains a constant concern. Affordability here is closely tied to volatility. Along the Gulf Coast, Gulfport and Biloxi, Mississippi present some of the lowest beach-adjacent home prices in the country. The water is warm, the seafood is fresh, and the cost of living is undeniably low. But the reasons are impossible to ignore. Hurricane Katrina permanently reshaped the region's reputation and infrastructure. Insurance costs can be high, flood zones are widespread, and long-term appreciation has historically lagged behind other coastal markets. Buyers are often trading long-term growth for immediate affordability. Texas adds a different flavor to the list. Corpus Christi sits right on the Gulf, offers consistent coastal access, and remains far cheaper than most beachfront cities. The downside here isn't hurricanes alone, but economic concentration. The job market relies heavily on energy, shipping, and military presence. When those sectors slow, the housing market feels it. The beaches themselves are real, but water clarity and environmental concerns can be off-putting for some buyers. Brownsville, Texas pushes affordability even further. Median home prices here can fall well below $250,000, even with coastal proximity. The trade-off is isolation. Brownsville sits at the southernmost edge of Texas, far from major metros. Economic opportunity is limited, healthcare options are fewer, and extreme heat defines daily life for much of the year. For the right buyer, it's a bargain. For others, it feels too remote. Not all beach bargains sit near oceans. Great Lakes beach towns quietly defy coastal pricing logic. Erie, Pennsylvania offers freshwater beaches, lakefront parks, and home prices that would be unthinkable on either coast. The catch is climate. Winters are long, snowy, and intense. Lake effect snow can shut down entire regions for days. Tourism spikes in summer, then disappears. You're buying seasonal beauty with year-round hardship. Green Bay, Wisconsin presents a similar story. While not traditionally thought of as a beach town, it sits on the shores of Lake Michigan with real sandy beaches nearby. Home prices remain low, cost of living is manageable, and the water access is legitimate. But winters are severe, the economy is small, and outside of football season, the cultural draw is limited. For many buyers, that's exactly why prices stay low. Further down the Atlantic coast, smaller towns like Fort Pierce and pockets of coastal Georgia and North Carolina continue to appear affordable, but the pattern remains the same. Insurance, storms, limited employment, and off-season emptiness keep demand in check. These towns are not undervalued mistakes by the market. They are accurately priced reflections of risk and lifestyle trade-offs. As the countdown moves closer to the most affordable beach towns, one theme becomes impossible to ignore: insurance. Coastal affordability often disappears once flood insurance, wind coverage, and rising premiums enter the picture. A home that looks cheap on paper can become expensive quickly if it sits in a high-risk flood zone. Many first-time buyers focus on purchase price and overlook long-term carrying costs, only to discover that monthly expenses rival those of far more expensive inland homes. This is why understanding FEMA flood maps is critical. Flood zones determine not only insurance requirements, but resale value. Two homes on the same street can have drastically different costs simply due to elevation. Insurance quotes should be obtained before making offers, not after. In some cases, older homes are grandfathered into lower rates, but that protection disappears once ownership changes. Another overlooked factor is hurricane risk. Gulf and Atlantic towns face different storm patterns, but both are vulnerable. Wind damage, storm surge, and evacuation risk all affect long-term livability. Some buyers accept this trade-off willingly, especially retirees or remote workers. Others underestimate how disruptive storm seasons can be to daily life. What often gets overlooked in conversations about cheap beach towns is how dramatically lifestyle expectations need to shift. Many buyers imagine waking up to ocean views, walking barefoot to coffee shops, and living a relaxed coastal dream year-round. In reality, affordable beach towns rarely operate on that postcard schedule. Daily life is slower, less polished, and more dependent on local rhythms. Services can be limited, nightlife may be minimal, and conveniences people take for granted in major cities often require long drives. The price discount isn't just financial, it's psychological. Another major factor keeping prices low is housing stock quality. In many of these towns, the most affordable homes are older properties built decades ago, sometimes before modern building codes accounted for flood risk or hurricane-force winds. Buyers often inherit outdated electrical systems, aging roofs, and foundations vulnerable to moisture. Renovation costs can quickly eat into the initial savings. This is especially true in Gulf Coast towns, where salt air accelerates corrosion and maintenance never really stops. Insurance volatility is becoming one of the biggest wildcards. In states like Florida and Louisiana, insurers are pulling out entirely or raising premiums sharply. What looks affordable today can become unaffordable within a few years as policies change. Some homeowners are forced onto state-backed insurance plans that offer limited coverage at higher costs. This uncertainty keeps buyers cautious and prices suppressed, especially in towns already associated with storm damage. Employment opportunities also play a silent but powerful role. Many of these beach towns rely heavily on tourism, healthcare, logistics, or a single dominant industry. When that industry struggles, the entire local economy feels it. Younger professionals often struggle to find upward mobility, which leads to population stagnation or decline. That lack of sustained demand keeps housing prices from climbing, even when natural beauty suggests they should. Remote work has changed the equation slightly, but not as much as people assume. While working from anywhere sounds ideal, reliable infrastructure still matters. Some affordable beach towns struggle with internet reliability, limited healthcare access, and fewer educational options. For families with children or individuals with medical needs, these limitations become deal breakers. As a result, demand remains selective rather than explosive. Climate reality is another unspoken deterrent. Summers in many of these locations are not just warm, they're oppressive. High humidity, extreme heat indexes, and long storm seasons can make outdoor life uncomfortable for months at a time. Beaches that feel magical in spring and fall may sit largely unused in peak summer. That seasonal imbalance affects quality of life and long-term desirability. There's also the issue of social isolation. Smaller beach towns often have tight-knit communities where newcomers take time to integrate. That can be welcoming for some and uncomfortable for others. Cultural diversity, dining variety, and entertainment options are usually limited. If you thrive on anonymity and constant stimulation, these towns can feel restrictive despite their scenic surroundings. On the flip side, this same isolation is what many residents love. Affordable beach towns attract people who value quiet mornings, empty shorelines, and slower days. For retirees, artists, and remote workers who prioritize peace over prestige, these places can feel like hidden gems rather than compromises. The lack of hype becomes part of the charm. Long-term appreciation is another consideration. Historically, these towns don't experience the explosive price growth seen in major coastal metros. That doesn't mean prices never rise, but growth tends to be slower and more tied to regional factors than national trends. Buyers looking to get in early often discover that the market has already priced in the risks. These towns aren't undiscovered, they're deliberately overlooked. Natural disasters leave psychological scars on markets as well. Even years after major storms, memories linger. Buyers remember images of flooding, evacuations, and destruction. That collective memory suppresses demand long after rebuilding is complete. In some towns, entire neighborhoods carry reputational baggage that keeps prices low regardless of improvements. Another subtle factor is accessibility. Many of these beach towns are far from major airports, hospitals, or cultural centers. Travel requires planning. Emergencies feel heavier when help is farther away. Over time, that distance becomes a real cost that shows up in pricing. The truth is that affordable beach towns exist because they require a specific type of buyer. Someone flexible, realistic, and willing to accept trade-offs. These places reward people who see value in simplicity rather than status. They punish those who expect luxury without cost. When viewed through that lens, the low prices make sense. The market isn't broken, it's honest. These towns offer real beaches, real homes, and real communities. Just not the fantasy version people are sold on social media. And for the few who align with that reality, the deal isn't a scam at all. It's an opportunity hiding in plain sight. There's also the issue of winter emptiness. Many affordable beach towns are summer economies. Restaurants close, shops reduce hours. Social life slows dramatically. For people who thrive on year-round energy, these places can feel isolating. For others, that quiet is the entire appeal. So should you actually move to one of these cheap beach towns? The answer depends on priorities. If your goal is proximity to water at the lowest possible price, these towns deliver. If you're looking for strong job growth, cultural amenities, and predictable appreciation, the bargain may not be worth it. The smartest buyers treat these places as lifestyle purchases, not financial investments. The real lesson is that beachfront affordability always has a reason behind it. These towns aren't scams, they're compromises. And for the right person, a compromise can feel like freedom.